first responders are hailed as heroes. They should be. However, the other first responders are unknown and placed in the background of public support and accolades. The ground has shifted. COVID-19 and George Floyd murder has shown how compassionate some of us are and are different. We can be. Personally, I was in a vulnerable state. I was injured, my medication gone, and I had little money. I had callous, indifferent park staff who refused to open the restroom while they stayed inside of the park in their offices. Sometimes I couldn't make it in time being on a walker. Other parks were granting access, except the park in Chinatown. Food was the next hurdle. Restaurants were shuttering, and $100 can only go so far on the SNAP program, where the restaurants close. SNAP, for the ones that are not familiar with this program, is a program that allows you to get hot food and sit down in restaurants. SNAP allows you to have a shot at eating inside a restaurant, but when they close, that shot is gone. This became an abrupt, frightening ghost town. While the world was giving flyovers to medical personnel and fawning over police officers, another group of first responders were out there. They understood the forgotten, the unheard, and the unseen were in need. People like Kathy Huck, Mary Kinney, Jane Wynn, Melissa Acedera, Jed Perriott, Joanna Swan, David Q, Pete White, General Dogon, and many, many more were seeing the need and were answering the call. So this episode is honoring and mentioning the first responders you see. City Hall and other government officials applaud themselves as caring and putting the needs of the city in their system. Housing is a human right. However, a new wave of unhoused people are on the way onto the streets. The city's response is to create a lottery akin to the Hunger Games. Dealing with this unprecedented crisis has put us close to the brink of change. Will we meet that challenge is the question. The Tenants Union in Glendale seems to be answering and stepping up. They met this week to remind City Hall that they work for the people and they demand eviction bans, cancellation of back rent to curb the inevitable tide of houselessness. If this does not happen, the catastrophic results will be very severe. Please join us for this episode 28, The Other First Responders. Good evening, this is Theo Henderson from Weedy & House. I'm here in the studios on the field. I'm having a conversation with a kind man, and I want him to tell us a little bit about his story, just to let us understand what it's like to be out here. What's your name, sir?
Clifton Hill.
Mr. Hill, tell us, how long have you been out on the streets?
I guess for about 3 years, but I was in hotels before that by my own help and the help of friends until my bank account was electronically robbed some kind of way in this electronic age.
Yeah. So how did you become unhoused?
Well, I was living with a three roommate situation, and the rent became extraordinarily high. Then my best friend that I had known for 30 years and lived with, his parents passed, and he had to move to New York. And then I had to move, and because two people couldn't afford $3,000 or more rent,
So you've been out here in the street. Has anyone talked to you about COVID-19? How are you surviving out there?
I'm doing fine, thank God for that, because when you're spiritually aware of things, you're not as fearful as some people are that are not as spiritually aware.
So has anyone talked to you about COVID-19?
Yes.
Okay, good. I noticed you have masks and things like that on.
Yeah, I try to keep it neat and stuff.
Yeah.
And when I have a chance, I kind of rinse down this stuff. When I have
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that you're very organized. I peeped that out. I was, he's keeping his things clean. So what is it that How can we help you if we want to help you get you back on your feet? What would be good for you?
Well, the best thing for me is I try to get I do have a Social Security income from working, but like until it's adjusted right and put back to the right thing, you know, with God's help, I have to do that and be patient. I can't really do anything with a fluctuating thing. When it used to come at 999, now it comes to 1,005. One should come at 1,203 or something. You know, it's been
very difficult.
Electronically, just kind of altered some kind of way through some means. You know, like some people have had happen.
Have you heard of the Project Room Key?
I think I have.
Well, Project Room Key is for people like us. It's to get into a hotel where you don't pay rent. You have your own room, your own shower, and of course there's some other stipulations. But if you have any pre-existing health conditions, they probably bump you up on the condition of the list. Do you have any of these?
No, not really. No.
So this is one of the options to look into. But I thank you for your time because I know you've been.
For your help, I appreciate you very much.
So like I said, I come out and I see you all the time, and I just wanted to let you know that I see you, I understand the struggle, and just keep a positive attitude.
All I would say is the organization that you're representing, God must have put it in their hearts to help people, because some people in their organizations do things, but it's not to really help people, it's to help themselves, but it helps people. But I thank God for the help you guys do.
Thank you very much. This is Theo Henderson from Wheat End House, and I thank you all for listening. May we again meet in the light of understanding. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is Theo Henderson from Wheat End House. We're still milling about, and we have watched an exciting, energetic, as you can hear, energetic group of people distribute food on Sunday. In the studios is Monique.
Hi, everyone.
And Todd.
Yes, hello, everyone.
So tell us, because they say that you're one of the big cheeses here. So tell us, how did this come about?
Well, basically, when the pandemic hit, we were still doing some outreach and still trying to find out what folk needed.
Right.
And we saw that all of the services in the places where people usually get food had just completely shut down.
Yes.
Also because people, the stay-in-place order, people were just staying at home, so they weren't coming and kind of giving out food in the way that they usually did too. So, we saw people literally starving, like just walking around hungry, angry, everything. And so we knew that we had to do something. So we started to get food, get meals in, ask folk if they could donate some food and non-perishable foods too, and waters. Also, we put together some immune boosting packs that was ginger, turmeric, lemon, garlic, just so that people could help fight what we knew was coming. So that's really how it came about, just seeing that all of the services and stores were closed and people couldn't access food anymore.
Yeah, we were also a source for people every Thursday. We had a farmer's market here.
Oh, okay.
And because everyone else was closed, we had to close as well. And so we have a rooftop garden upstairs, and we made cheese and salads and all those kinds of things we put in the meals as well. So that's how part of how it gets started. Also, there was a need for our business to do it.
I noticed that farmers markets have returned. Are you guys thinking about bringing the farmers market back? Because I know that was very crucial and intricate, because there's a lot of vegetarians and health conscious unhoused people, but they cannot or don't have their access to the things that you guys are providing.
Yeah, that's true. But on Wellness Wednesdays, we harvest the food that we grow up in the garden.
Right.
So we have salads there, we have fruits and vegetables. So we do still have that on Wednesdays.
Oh, excellent.
And we're still not absolutely 100% into like being social, the whole socializing in big groups. People want to hang out at the market and things like that. So a lot of markets have been very reticent to open. They've not always been successful. They can't have processed food there. So it's like this is our outlet for that. And we've now expanded to 2 days a week, 1 day. So hopefully it all helps out as well.
Can we talk a little bit about food justice? Because we are talking, because it's a necessity thing. Many times people talk about protesting and waving signs and things like that. But this is the intricate part of what our survival is, like food. Everyone needs food, no matter what side of the question is on. So why is it so important for food justice here for the unhoused and the people that are food insecure and house insecure?
People just don't have access to healthy food, and we see that this right here, Skid Row, is it's a food desert. There's nothing fresh here. There's nothing organic here, and so we know that that's so necessary to have it. It's intentional. It's very intentional. Folk that are in this area, it's not just by chance. This is something very intentional, and so the conditions that are here kind of help to.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just recognizing that people, have underlying health conditions and don't have access to healthy food. It's a really important aspect of our work to make sure that we have that here in LA Can.
I agree. What I noticed too is a deliberate method of it, as well as the food markets that they have there. Because when I was trying to stay healthy, it's expensive. Yep. So, and especially the food market in other areas.
It's extremely expensive, yeah. We knew from our food assessment study that it's actually 2.5 times more expensive than the markets that are just a few blocks away. And the markets that have come close to here are also very, very expensive. You can't really find organic produce, fruits or vegetables around here anywhere except here at our farmers market and a few other places. But yes, basically that's the deal.
So as this is growing, because I noticed how quickly you guys had people, such a need was here. Do you guys have plans of an expansion or thinking of expansion plans?
Well, we're kind of monitoring the situation. At the moment, this is what we have capacity to do. If it looks as though we need to be here more days of the week, then we may do that. But at the moment, we're just planning on being here for the Sunday Strong and Wellness Wednesday.
Okay.
Expanding, so one way that we expand is we take meals out to across town, but across 5th and St. Pedro, which is only 2 blocks away, but and several blocks down. But a lot of those people, because they live in tents, they can't leave their place, so we bring food to them. So that's one way we're expanding.
I think that's an excellent idea, because I notice when I do some of my outreach as well, people, because things can happen when we all so know police officers or people, things get missing or thrown in the trash and things like that. And one of the most major things that I noticed yesterday, that there's a hunger need, and then there's also a thirst need, as well as like water, because I believe in giving more than one bottle of water, because it's just too hot out there to be sitting all day in your tent, and in one bottle of water you go through it very easily. So I noticed you guys have a hydroponic pond, but what are you guys doing with like the other aspects like water and other things like that? I know you guys do other things, or what's that about?
Well, the aeroponic and hydroponic showers that we have out there are they use 90% less water than in-ground in soil gardens. So that's one way we're trying to contribute. We're also looking at some other new advanced services where they're actually they create water out of air, basically from the humidity, which would lessen our reliance on the groundwater, that stuff. In terms of other water, we give away water all the time with our meals. So we're dedicated.
Hand washing stations too.
Yeah, the hand washing station. Well, that's the water thing. Yeah, hand washing is critical. Yes.
How can we, if people are watching this, want to get involved and help with these kind of things? Because some people are not going to be going out on the protest line, but they are chefs. Some of them have a skill in farming or agricultural, because I just happen to talk to someone that has that. And I do husbandry or whatever. How can they become involved? What would you suggest for them?
Reach out to us. They can go onto our website, www.cangres.org, or go to our Facebook page and find a way to contact us. We always need people to kind of help with the food supplies and the water. So if people do have fresh organic fruits and vegetables that they want to donate to us, we'd love to receive it. money donations too. We need money to help buying these things and keep it going. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're always looking for an opportunity to feature chefs that are like interested in creating. We've had several chefs who've created signature products for us to sell for this community, and it's always a delight just to see when people from other areas come in, because they are always delighted. They feel like that there's so much hope here, certainly with us, and the relationships we have with them. So.
And also sharing recipes too.
Yeah.
We do cook food. Sometimes we make meals. And oftentimes in community, people say, "Well, did you know that this works?" And so just sharing meals and dishes, it would be really good as well.
Who knows? You might, as LA Can might have a recipe book out there soon.
Yes,
That's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Yes, good. We all need to eat healthy, myself included, but I believe that food justice is just as important as standing out there and speaking out against the other injustices that occur. And I thank you for your time, Todd and Monique. This is Theo Henderson from Weedian House. I thank you all for listening, and may we again meet in the light of understanding. Theo Henderson from Weedian House. I have a returning guest that was so awesome before, and I'm so excited to have her here because she's making her dreams, her visions work, and it's in action. This is Melissa Acedera, who is with Polo Pantry, and look at right here on a Sunday, the spirit of an ingenuity and just backbone on what has been accomplished. We talked about food justice, and here is Melissa. Say hello to the guest.
Hi, Weedian House community. Thank you for listening to Theo. I've been I've owed a lot to Theo to really kind of get me to talk about my story. So I appreciate you guys being here today. So thank you for being here.
So again, for the audience, what motivated and inspired you to do this?
Wow. I mean, I just, especially with COVID, I felt like there were a lot of areas that needed help, and really it was like a video that I saw that LA Can had posted about Skid Row, the Skid Row era basically like not having enough food, and so I think from there I basically just DM'd him. I said, hey, how can I help? And then that's why we're here.
Prior to this, Melissa has been running around giving food to other unhoused places, as we would coordinate and connect in different areas, and we were doing a network and we were talking about it. And so this just seems like a kismet experience to have this here. So how often do you guys do this?
Every Sunday for the past, I don't know, like 14, 15 weeks. I want to bring in Alex too, who is my partner in this.
Oh, cool, yes.
Yeah, we basically created the project together that tapped into a huge network of volunteers, of cooks and drivers, basically. So this is like, this is like a culmination of a lot of people's hands.
So when does the big event start? Because I see you guys working like busy bees.
Well, right now it's about 12:30, so we probably should be starting up in like, I don't know, maybe in like 15 minutes. Hey, sorry, I'm seeing people come in. Come on in, yeah. Cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe.
So Alex is the gentleman there with power, right?
Yes. So actually, Alex. So this is Alex, and he's the ED for EX.
Oh,
so I want Alex to also talk about like the project we started together. Without him, honestly, this also would not be possible.
So Alex, what happened? How did this come about?
Oh
man.
Talk to him.
Well, it all starts with relationships, right? And so knowing Mel through Danny Park of Skid Row Coffee, Skid Row People's Market.
Skid Row People's Market.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
We love you, Danny.
Yeah. So it's all relationships, right?
Yes.
And when the pandemic hit, just figuring out how like our community could be a service, and knowing Mel and like the grassroots organizing she does and all in the food insecurity world. For sure, like when it comes to people's basic needs, during the pandemic, food was something that we thought, okay, we could probably help with that. So we started to explore like what that could look like. At first, it started with like, maybe we could get our friends to pack like 50 meals and then we can like serve, you know? And then like once word spread about like us wanting to do that, then more people were like, oh, I want to cook meals at home. And then, you know, 50 turned into 500, turned into 1,000. Now we're at like 10,000.
10,000?
Yes, yeah.
My goodness.
And what's amazing about what we did was we literally was like at his house. We sat down and talked about like how they could plug in. And so it was just like thinking of like a food program that we could do. Basically what I was doing would almost extend that to like an army of people doing it. So, and then just basically plugging in our partners like LA Can, Street Watch, K-Town, and then we partnered with my buddy God's Pantry, so we could get like food as well. So for people who want to cook who don't have access to, you know, like money to be able to cook, we still want people to be able to contribute if they,
It takes a village, and every leaf on the tree makes the whole tree. So I totally agree with that. We were talking earlier in a previous interview about food justice, and I was telling you how my mother was one of the people in the civil rights movement and things like that, cooking and things like that for the churches in order for them to eat and go out and do the protesting. She was kind of behind the scenes when she wanted to be, but what she was really important is like a lot of the black women at that time were behind the scenes that never got the credit. And you were saying you was inspired by that as well. So.
Yeah, like definitely like the movement that your mom was part of is huge influence to me. Like I'm wearing this right now, the free like Black Panthers.
Exactly. Awesome.
Which I love to sort of evangelize to people, especially if they're kind of new to food justice, that the history of a lot of food programs that we have in the U.S. really has stemmed from the Black Panthers as well, and also from movements like your moms who are part of like women in church kitchens, in their kitchens cooking. And that's, I feel like in a way, our work honors that work.
Exactly.
You know?
And not only that, for like you have on, we have a program called WIC, which comes out of the Black Panther movement, which is what they always talk about the negatively about Black Panther, but they did a lot of good. That again, here is a community organization program that did it for themselves, that now the state has co-opted and then villainized. So what I wanted to word it was like, this is one of the things that when we talk about the other first responders, most people see police officers, which I don't know why we always harp on them, or other nurses or medical. They're important, but we don't solve. This is an important part of our society. It's always overlooked. What can we do to get people to become more involved into this movement?
Man, I think one, just belief, like believing that you actually have power and that you can make a difference, and then people power, like getting involved with your friends or with people you want to be spending time with, and then putting your brain power together to think about what makes sense for you and your friends, what you're interested in also, right? Like we wouldn't only be doing this if we weren't interested in Black rights and human rights and LA Can's work. If I didn't love Melissa, right? Like at the root of all this is like a deep care for one another, right? And so if you have that with your friends or family, like bring everyone together and like think about what you could do.
Very good. Come on. Well, this man too, I think what's beautiful about Alex's work is I think kind of like the catalyst for EIC really was a way for people to kind of like almost reimagine what connecting means. And so we've done other projects prior to this, and I think what really taught me and our friend Danny was to also take care of ourselves. Like we have a we have a huge
self-care.
Network, but like EIC has been incredible with like making sure that the helpers are also taken care of. And so that's important too for the work that we're doing.
Look, it's fun.
It's fun,
Look at the
right?
vibe here.
Music going, I'm ready to I gotta remember.
It's nourishing yourself at the same time as when you're giving back.
We go hand in hand. So it's like, you know, like we're constantly learning from each other. The thing is that you and I are constantly learning from each other.
And we don't have Now's podcast teaching us as well. It's all a part of it.
Yes. So I think that's what it is too. It's just those partnerships.
Yes.
And really nourishing those partnerships as well. So.
Do you think defunding the police would be some of the money that's taken would benefit from this come to these kind of organizations?
Yes, absolutely.
I hope so. Man.
Yeah,
I hope it brings in more average people who are like, I want to help and be a part of the solution. If there's more avenues for people that are funded, right? I think that would be a huge difference.
Yeah.
You know, there's a subtle campaign that's been going on where one of the other activists that goes out and feeds communities on Saturdays, the police is always trying to subtly target them by telling them to move their cars or move the locations because of that. Because partly it's driven by the NIMBYism, because sometimes the NIMBYs have a loud voice and then the city council gets scared and police are in heaven and then they're on board with a lot of the harassment tactics. What do you think we should do to that?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in just firsthand experiences and building relationship and just bringing people into the spaces where everyone else is, right? And like come into each other's backyards and like let's connect and like learn about each other's experiences. Get out of the fear mindset, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the othering that we do, we've been conditioned to do, and so the more spaces we can create for people to just connect, I think is the answer.
100%. And to add to what Alex said, again, like telling the stories from the people that we serve, absolutely. Like, what's made I feel like my work and our work impactful is that I listen to you, I listen to Harvey, to your lived experiences, because you guys understand the lack of resources that are happening out there. And so it's not coming into a space like thinking that we can come in with solutions, but reverse that and basically ask the people who are deeply affected by it and really do our due diligence to completely amplify their voices. Yeah.
Excellent. I have one last question, and I heard a rumor, and it may be true or not, but I heard that, and I have to get it from you first because I trust your source is unimpeachable. I heard that Melissa was out here dancing. Is that true?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, in about 30 minutes, you'll see the loudspeakers will be on. Not just Melissa, but everybody, right? Everybody. From people we're serving to, man, it's all love, man. It's all love.
You care to comment on that? Is there any video footage on that?
I'm pretty sure this man has video. You can also ask Pete too. So.
Well, thank you. I just had to ask because quiet minds want to know. This is Theo Henderson for Weedian House, and I thank you all for listening. And may we again meet in the light of understanding. We're about to start. This is Theo Henderson from Weedian House. I'm here in the hub of social justice and change. This is the Los Angeles Community Action Network. They have been instrumental for a lot of victories that is unknown about for human rights for unhoused community. As you can see, we here are in preparation of a feeding distribution network. So let's get the viewpoint and statement from General Dogon. General Dogon, thank you again for joining us.
All power to the people. Oh yeah, for sure, all the time, man.
So I'm noticing behind us we have a urban farm. What's this about?
It's a hydroponic garden is what it is. And so what it is, it's a system basically where you don't have to water it. It waters itself. Right? And so they got these little bitty little balls. You don't know if you can really see them, but there's little balls right here. See them? And they have seeds in them. It's a little ball of just dirt.
Oh, okay.
And they got little holes in this tall like tower system. And it, like about maybe 40 holes in each tower system. And you stick one of these little balls that has the dirt and the seeds already in it, right? And it waters it all by itself. Right?
I noticed lettuce is growing out of this one.
And so yes, this is a garden that you could just, as long as the water is on there, it grows overnight, which is so crazy. I mean, you can put the stuff in there today, and you wake up tomorrow, you eating salad. all you need just come out here with your plate and your dressing and something to fight with. You know what I'm saying? Your fork and a spoon.
We got some steaks. You know, I'm there with you. So it's like, whose idea was doing this? Because I noticed you guys are really about a lot of types of forms of justice things. For example, food justice. People miss. We're not all protests, and we're not all about yelling this, but we're talking about really economic development and different things like this. So what got this going?
So, I mean, this is part of the fight. I mean, we gotta have our own soldiers, our own military. We gotta have our own garden, our own food. We can't depend on the enemy to feed us during the time of war, right? Or we're gonna be starving mother others.
Go good.
So with that said, we have our own rooftop garden as well.
Can we take a look at that as well?
For sure. I invite you to go up there. Man, you can probably talk to my brother Ray right here.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Who's more, he's on the team food, team. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But we call it wellness and justice.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so what it is justice coming together with community wellness. We understand that Skid Row historically is a community that has been greatly deprived. It's a recovery community.
Right.
And a lot of people is either actually in their addiction or they just came out of their addiction.
Exactly.
Right. And then it's an extremely low-income, impoverished community that's been totally impoverished. And we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have a Rouse. You know what I'm saying? On Skid Row.
Yeah.
We got stores in our community called the Green Apple, but believe me, you won't find a green apple nowhere in them. We got some food with some green stuff on it, which I would advise you to eat. But you know, then the prices is the highest prices, you know, in the nation. This is the poorest community in the nation, and we downtown is being gentrified, right? And it used to be the cheapest part of the city. Now it's the most expensive part of the city.
And heavily policed, I understand, too.
And heavily, too. You got more cops on Skid Row than any other part of the nation, right?
Yes.
Under the Safer Cities Initiative, the city was policing Skid Row at a cost of $100 million annually, right? For 10 years straight, they invested over $100 million in just policing about 15 square blocks of Skid Row, right? About from Main Street to where we're standing at now, Grange, about Gladys Street.
Right.
And so, after 10 years of policing, before they started, it was a little less than about 200 tents on the street. Now it's 5,000 plus tents on the streets, right? And so we told them, you cannot police your way out of homelessness. The only solution to homelessness is what? Housing. Exactly, right.
It's so simple, but it's like we get so many permutations of resistance on that.
And I mean, they spent more money on Triple H because they really spent $1.5 billion. You know what I mean? Just 10 years, just to police it. That was a gift they was giving LAPD. Then on top of that, the city was giving LAPD 87% of the homeless budget, which was another $100 million. So how the hell are you gonna end homelessness when you're giving the cops 87% to police the homeless?
Outright ridiculous.
And then on top of that, they was getting another 54% of the general fund, the overall budget here, right? So 3 of the top budgets in the city was going to them. And then that don't include all the other little fake programs that they got, you know what I'm saying, like CSP, community, what they call it, community safety partnership, something like that. Community safety partnership program, stuff like that. What kind of partnership we have with the police? The police, the people in the community see as terrorists. You know what I'm saying? We don't see you as serving and protecting our communities. We see you as every time you turn the corner, little kids is running, adults is talking about you. We see you as terrorists because everybody is getting harassed. Somebody's getting a ticket. Somebody's going to jail, and unfortunately, somebody gets shot. And so we don't need you in our community. We won't even call you. We hate you. Don't even come over here, right? You taking all the money. You know, here it is. is, you got people that's laying on the street dying 3 a day, right, in the city of Los Angeles. And the mayor's idea is to give LAPD a raise. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is how we got in this situation, by LAPD blood sucking, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the community and blood sucking the whole city, basically, you know what I'm saying? I mean, for resources that they don't need.
I have a question too, because people.
Oh, and then on top of that, before Bratton left, he said crime was down 54%. I mean, not 54, but down back to where it was in the 1950s. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
So when crime is down, you know, especially to the lowest where it is back in the 50s, that ain't the time to give the LAPD raises. That's the time to break it down. You know what I mean? That's the time to start defunding them and putting money in other places, because we don't need you no more. We don't need that no more. So why you still putting money into it?
It's not working.
Right. My question is this too: is that okay? But the people always, when they say defund the police, people don't understand that they still have $3.1 billion. So it's not like that they're going to be starving. So second of all, it's like what we're asking is, people always thinking when we say defund the police, that crime like rapes and murders and all of these things are going to be not taken care of. But the problem is, what my research has shown is that the majority of the policing is not done about rapes and murders. It's done about quality of life crimes, targeting poor people, and so that's a ridiculous argument.
Exactly right. And I'm gonna tell you like this, man. It's the crime in the city, especially like here on Skid Row, right? We have the majority of the police. They got what they call CompStats, right? That show where the Part 1 crimes are most happening. Part 1 crimes are, like you say, rape, robbery, murder, stuff like that, right? Those are Part 1 crimes, right? And it shows that it's more Part 1 crimes in South Central, Compton, and Watts, in an area like that, than it is on Skid Row, right? Skid Row has the lowest crime rate in the city, but yet we have the highest patrol rate in the city, right? Why? Right? It's because you're trying to show off for the business people, right? You want to clear areas. Those are the gentrifier police. You want to move poor people out of the area. It ain't about crime. It ain't about, because it ain't no damn crime. Just like Bratton said, you know, crime has been what it was back in the 50s. There is none. So what do? You try to make it seem like something's going on. That's why they create all these fake programs that stop the police spying coalitions, take it out. You're like Prayer Pro and Laser and all this kind of stuff. You know, we dismantling all those programs because we're showing they don't work. If the mayor can say, yeah, we'll take $250 million from the police department, no problem, we'll cut their budget. If you can take $250 million, you can take the whole billion. Get it all, come on, give it in, kick it in. You got 3.5 to do what? It ain't no crime going on. Come on, you need to kick some of that in. And so, and when you kick that in, then we'll start seeing a difference in our community. Like you say, you give a person, I done seen gang members, I done seen addicts, you give them an opportunity. You go out there and you give that man a job. That man get a job, you know what I'm saying? Once he get a job, he gonna go get housing, he gonna start paying rent, he gonna buy a car, he gonna get a car note, and once he start getting a car note and a job and start that, he ain't gonna mess that up. He gonna wanna go to work because he wanna keep his car. He got his nice car shined up, he got his girlfriend riding around there. He wanna keep that going on, you know what I'm saying? And so he ain't gonna go out there and mess up. Give a person opportunities and you will see a change. You know what I'm saying? You put the money in the police, you take it out of our communities, you create violence, you create, you know, a scavenger where we like crabs on each other and stuff like that, right? Yeah, because it shows that when there's enough fruits and vegetables for everybody, then everybody is happy. You know what I'm saying? It's a thriving, lovely community, and that's what we want. And the only way we can do that is to defund the pigs. So let's start today. We want our money back. We want a refund.
Well, there you have it. This is Theo Henderson from Whittier House, and I thank you all for listening, and may we again meet in the light of understanding. Unhoused News. Whittier, California is moving forward to create a shelter for the unhoused. The shelter will house only 187 people out of thousands. City officials are looking for funds to operate the shelter. The city budget is $72.3 million. Once the shelter is open, their primary goal of criminalizing and enforcing the anti-unhoused ordinances will be back in effect. In other news, Ward 6 family shelter fails inspection. Officials estimated it would open in 2019. The shelter will only house 50 families and is called the Aya. Fire alarm issues, secure access was cited. However, tipsters informed Washington City paper as ongoing construction is on the medical clinic. Department of Human Services will terminate the contract once the shelter will house only 50 unhoused people. Other unhoused families will be put on the street. In more tragic news, an unhoused man was brutally beaten to death by a housed 15-year-old boy and a 17-year-old housed girl. Here's how it happened. The two teens from New Jersey brutally beat 63-year-old Bobby J. Hill Jr. He died from severe head trauma with multiple injuries to his head. Detectives found out who it was by retrieving a video evidence from one of the teens' cell phones and surveillance tapes, watching the teens enter where Mr. Hill slept and exited. Hamilton Homeless Shelter executive dies at 59. Linda Kimball, executive director of Serve City, died on June 28 after a long-term illness. And lastly, HUD rule will dismantle protections for transgender houseless people. HUD, under Dr. Ben Carson's leadership, has proposed of allowing shelters to deny access to single-sex shelters of gender identity to accommodate religious beliefs of shelters providers. And this is Unhoused News. This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused. I'm currently here at Glendale City Hall, and there's a protest going on about cancellation of rent and eviction. Here in the studios is a member of this team, and I noticed he was speaking in Armenian. Could you tell us what was you chanting with the Armenian statement? And you can say it in Armenian if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So we are saying Sonun voshte varts yev ինչ ենք ուզում վարձի ըսկում վարձի չեղարկում ինչ ենք ուզում երբ ենք ուզում հիմա. These are translations of food not rent and what do we want, rent cancellation, when do we want it now. And for us it's very important to bring in Armenian and Spanish into the space because Glendale has very large Armenian-speaking and Spanish-speaking communities. Mm-hmm. This is always a work in progress, but as someone who is Armenian, my organizing in Glendale has everything to do with and understanding of anti-gentrification work has everything to do with preservation of long-standing immigrant communities as part of the larger fight to prevent displacement. That's a very important part of what we do.
Yes, I also noticed that because they also have a tendency to put us in boxes or places. I know that there were, my experience here in Glendale has always been rife with police harassment for black unhoused people. So I noticed that, so it's kind of like, kind of eerie to see like being able to be out here during their day, but that I noticed that they have like Latino and, like you say, Armenian people here. Do you know that the racial tensions that were going on there, or about the police brutality ideologies that's going out here?
You mean Glendale? I mean, Glendale has a very quote-unquote rich history of racism, overt racism, specifically anti-black racism, but also by extension racism against any minority or whatever is perceived as minority, because we are the majority, you know that, right?
Of course,
yeah.
Of course.
All right. I mean, the brief history of it, this was like the West Coast headquarters of the Klan back in the beginning 20th century. I believe to this day there's like weird, they take this off lately, but like weird like quasi swastika like signs on the seawall or something. I think this has recently been taken off. And this was a sundown town until the 60s.
Still a sundown town for the black unhoused.
Right? No kidding. Yeah. And I think, when we are doing work in housing justice, some folks said it better than I could earlier, we have to look at this as intersectional fights, whether it's racial justice, housing justice, fights against queer antagonism and homophobia, work that is done to move towards living a society that is supportive and fair for everyone. Especially in Glendale, it is kind of weird. I mean, the thing with Glendale is that it borders LA. Like there's a big borderline with LA. But when you enter the city hall, sometimes you may think you're in a rural town in terms of just the attitude, not anything else, but the attitude of the city council and the city hall towards its residents, its constituents, and the way that they think they can just do whatever and get away with it. We are intent on changing that.
Well said. This is Theo Henderson from Weedian House. I thank you for your time, and I hope we all meet again in the light of understanding. Hi, this is Theo Henderson from Weedian House. We're here live now here at Glendale City Hall. I'm here speaking to one of the activists. We're talking about canceling rent eviction ban, and I wanted to hear her thoughts on what's going on.
Hi Theo, this is Niko. We are the Glendale Tenants Union. We're a tenant center and tenants-led movement. We've been doing work mostly around, answering any questions that people have regarding their rights, and also making sure that no one is being harassed by landlords, no one is being unlawfully evicted, especially during this time of COVID-19. We know that our communities who are most affected, disproportionately affected by COVID-19, are also affected by housing rights issues, are unhoused, undocumented. And so this work for us is intimately bound up with, obviously, all Black Lives Matter, obviously making sure our queer and trans siblings are housed, safe. That's just a little brief look at the work we do.
What is the City Hall, Glendale City Hall's response to this?
Glendale City Hall, the council has largely ignored us. They've ignored tenants. Tenants make up almost 70% of the residents in Glendale. We're a large majority. We're also a super diverse, heterogeneous majority. Most meetings tenants' concerns don't even wind up on the agenda. So we do a lot of pushback and try and converse with and make sure that at least there are talking points. Of course, our focus isn't electoral politics. That's only going to go so far. We don't really believe any of these people are going to enact the changes we want. That's what grassroots movement work, organizing, local organizing work is for. But I think slowly there's been a little bit of a push or a change. I think hopefully City Council is hearing us and listening to us. And if they're not, we're going to be there for our neighbors no matter what. We're going to be there making sure nobody is getting evicted and doing what we can to stand in solidarity.
I was going to ask, because I noticed you guys were telling, what's the way for people to come involved and speak out against this? Is there anything that anybody can do here in Glendale?
Getting involved with us is a huge step. We are a volunteer-led and run organization. There's only about 10 of us, 4 members, and then of course probably, I would say, between 50 and 100 who have been signing on, and more so people. I mean, that's really what we need, numbers right now. So we're focusing on outreach and trying to grow to at least 500, maybe hopefully in a year. But for those who want to get involved, just basics, calling City Council, putting pressure on them on Tuesdays, not spending, the majority of the time doing that, because again, it only goes so far. And then, of course, just doing work with us, outreach, talking to our neighbors, making sure people know, making sure they know we exist, especially Spanish and Armenian speakers, getting involved, because this isn't a movement until we have really everyone who feels they can be a part of this. Folks who don't speak English, folks who might be undocumented, the elderly, disabled folks. So.
Well, thank you very much. You've given us a lot of food for thought, and I thank you all for listening as well, and may we again meet in the light of understanding. This episode highlights and honors the other first responders. It also gives attention to the ongoing protests that are still going on this summer about equality, housing equality, eviction bans, and cancellation of rent. I'll add further, we also will need subsidies for rent as well as food for the unhoused community, as well as people that are housed insecure, in order to stabilize the economy and to give a sense of stability in the families' lives that are housing insecure. It is my hope that we understand that we have more power than we realize. And unfortunately, the criminal of the city councils and police officers have slithered their way into the hearts of very few people that are very disdainful of poverty and poor people. We must take this back and remind them in no uncertain terms that they are responsible for us, they answer to us, and that we will not accept any type of untoward behavior toward poor people, unhoused people, or anybody that is a part of the system. Sheriff Villanova has been crying along with Sheriff Joe Clark about how there is an anti-police sentiment. If you consider for the moment that there has been an ongoing war on poor people by the Los Angeles Police Department and other police departments across the country, the question is, you have to have some part to play in it. What part did the police play in it? And it's never highlighted. It's never acknowledged. And the only thing that's done is using deflective conversational points about black on black violence, which I would like to take the moment here because some African Americans and black Americans love to point that out. So let us be clear. That is an anti-black statement. The difference between black on black crime and police brutality is most often than not, when black on black crime is committed, they're usually apprehended and they meet the full weight of the justice system. That is not what police brutality does when they commit crimes, or the criminals and the thugs that perpetuates criminal acts against unarmed people or people existing in a situation. Even if they are criminals, they still are accorded civil rights. The thing that happens to them, they get a paid leave or suspension. At the worst, if the situation is egregious, they will relieve them of their job. But there's no criminal charges, and then once they are, they're usually dismissed by fawning or deifying people that believe in police brutality against people of color, or people that believe that we should only discuss black on black crime before we look into the issue of police brutality. There is no such thing as black on black crime. If there's such thing as white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime, Latino on Latino crime. The list goes on. That statement is reductive, deliberately, and its message is to paralyze people of color like black Americans from standing up and having the temerity of speaking out against the injustices they have. One more thing, black on black crime is not true. But I also think it's deliberately omitted by people that tout that. They disrespect the black men and women that have spoken about the violence in their neighborhoods for years, the gang members that called truces, the other community members that have worked in those very communities that they keep bringing up, like my hometown, Chicago, as the result of black on black crime. We need to stop that narrative, and we need to call the attention to even black Americans that state that. There is no such thing of that. We need to get rid of the anti-black sentiment even in our own communities in order for us to be able to move forward and tackle the other issues that the city uses as a pivot point to escape blame, such as cancellation of rent, eviction bans, subsidies, and infiltration of funds and infusion of funds in those communities, that's distressed communities, that the colonizers or gentrifiers have infiltrated in poor neighborhoods with these trendy restaurants. If we have people that are concerned about this black on black crime or the crime level, give these underhoused or these black individuals positions of authorities in their communities. Give them things to hope for, things to work for, and things to repair some of the damages that are in our community. Substance usage clinics, as harm reduction sites, trauma-informed care, these are things that we've been talking about for years, but somehow it misses the conversational point when we talk about black on black crime. The other first responders understands this. That's why they're out there in the ditches. And this is one of the things, if you want to join that, understand, be educated on the whole situation before you take a part of it and cherry pick it to further your dismissive aims. This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused. I thank you all for listening. May we all again meet in the light of understanding.